Hey everybody, I'm Megan Hatcher-Mays. I'm the Director of Democracy Policy at Indivisible, and welcome to our DNC wrap-up live stream. We're going to get started in just 1 second or two. Thank you for joining us, but before we get started, do me a quick favor and just share out the live stream link with your networks. Either share it on Facebook, YouTube, or retweet us on Twitter. This is going to be a great live stream, and we want as many people as possible to join us. So we're going to get started in just a minute. Stay tuned and share this link.
For 4 years, you marched, you made calls, you helped save the Affordable Care Act and flip the House. Indivisibles have helped save us from the worst of the Trump presidency, and now it's time to kick him out. And that's why we're launching Windivisible. This is the most important election of our lifetime, and we need all hands on deck. For the next 100 days, we're counting on you to host virtual events, organize phone banking and text banking, and mobilize your community into action. This is not the world we expected for our general election campaign. The pandemic has forced us to adapt to this moment in ways that we never could have anticipated. But the stakes are too high to back down, and we're ready to meet this moment. We have the tools to succeed. We have the resources to succeed. And most importantly, we have you. And we know you're going to show up, do the work, and help us win in November. Visit 2020.indivisible.org to learn more.
This is a moment of real consequence for America. Everything we care about, our economy, our health, our children, the kind of country we live in, it's all on the line.
The question is, for all Americans to answer, who are we as a nation? What do we stand for? And most importantly, what do we want to be?
This election isn't just about defeating Donald Trump or Mike Pence. It's about building this country back better. And that's exactly what Joe and I will do.
One of the reasons I chose Kamala is because we both believe that we can define America simply in one word: possibilities.
Whenever I think that there is a reason for doubt, whenever I've had my own doubts, I think of you, the American people, the doctors and nurses and frontline workers who are risking your lives to save others, the women and students taking to the streets in unprecedented numbers, the dreamers and immigrants who know that families belong together, the LGBTQ Americans who know that love is love. So to everyone keeping up the fight, you are doing something. You are doing something great. You are the heroes of our time. And you are the reason I know we are going to bring our country closer to realizing its great promise.
Megan Hatcher-Mays. I'm the Director of Democracy Policy at Indivisible, and we are back again with another wonderful live stream. This is going to be a ton of fun. It is our DNC wrap-up live stream. As everybody knows, the Democratic National Convention took place all week. Normally, under normal circumstances, it would have taken place in person in Milwaukee, but that did not happen because this administration still has not gotten COVID-19 under control. I'm super excited about tonight's live stream, though. We are joined by one of our all-time faves, Representative Ayanna Pressley from the great city of Boston, from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we're going to hear from her a little bit later. I'm super excited. So stay tuned. And also, if you have not already, please share the link to this live stream with your friends, because you are not going to want to miss Representative Ayanna Pressley at this wonderful, fabulous, and elegant DNC wrap-up live stream. So I'm sure you've been following all the very exciting news coming out of the DNC this week. One of the last big milestones before the election this November. We have just 74 days, folks. It's been a long 4 years, but we're in the final stretch, 74 days to go to do everything we can do to send Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House. We got to flip the Senate too, so Biden and Harris can get their agenda done, and we're going to save our democracy. I'm not just saying that just because caring about democracy is my job. This is a critical moment in our nation's history. Donald Trump has not wasted a single opportunity to tear apart our democratic institutions in his kind of never-ending quest to hoard power for himself, members of his family, and his corrupt friends, at the expense of the rest of us. He and Mitch McConnell have spent the last 4 years corrupting kind of every inch of the federal government, all while making it harder for all of us to hold them accountable. And now they're attacking our dear and beloved Postal Service, the primary mechanism that we will use to finally kick Donald Trump out of office this fall. This cannot continue. Enough is enough. Remember what Barack Obama said earlier this week at the convention: do not let them take away your power. Do not let them take away your democracy. We are not going to let them do this. So if you're watching this live stream right now and you're thinking, but what can I do? You can go, of course, please, to 2020.indivisible.org, and you can get involved today. You can call and text voters. You can send postcards. And all of that will make a huge difference over the next 74 days. Now, enough from me. I know why you're here. It's, of course, to hear from our friend, Representative Ayanna Pressley. Congresswoman Pressley, thank you so much for joining us, and please take it away.
Thank you, Megan. Great to be with everyone. Look, even though we can't be together physically in community, given this pandemic, it feels really good to be able to join you just for a moment in virtual community. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. I'm grateful for the work of Ezra and Leah and all that you've done over the past 4 years, including in my own race for Congress 2 years ago. It's hard to believe that it's only been 2 years. I'm grateful that you keep showing up, and that you keep taking a stakeholder in our democracy, and that you keep advocating for change. Now, over the past week, we've heard from many different folks throughout this week at the convention about the theme, We the People, and the power that we hold in this moment to address and confront the real challenges we face and to make progress for our communities. Now, I hold many titles. I'm a lawmaker, I'm a mother, I'm a survivor. But more than anything, may she rest in peace and power, I am my mother's daughter. My mother, the woman who gave me my roots and my wings, who never patronized me or condescended me as a child, and instead of reading me typical bedtime stories, read me the speeches of Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm. She made sure that I knew that as beautiful as it is to be Black, and as proud as I should be to be Black, that I was being born into a continuous struggle. And she had an expectation that I would do my part in that struggle. My mother was a tenants' rights organizer. She was a community activist, and she was a survivor. And from a young age, my mother instilled in me the value and the possibilities of movement building and civic engagement. She taught me the difference between your job and your work, that your job is what you do to pay the bills, and your work with a capital W is the work that you do to build, uplift, and to advance community. The only way to effectuate change in a deep, meaningful, and sustainable way is to build engaged, active, committed movement builders in partnership and progress. That is the task and the opportunity that we have before us. You know, my mother was a super voter, and she made sure I knew that that was our superpower. We had many reasons to feel small, unseen, powerless, growing up in the residual aftermath of draconian and discriminatory policies which still persist today, like redlining and the failed war on drugs, just to name a few. But on election day, when my mother would pull that curtain and I would go in there with her and we would vote, she would turn to me and say, "Never forget that we are powerful." I believed her then, and I do still. You all are part of an incredible movement. I have to remind people every day, the squad is big, y'all. Anyone doing the work of building a more equitable and just world is a member of the squad. And indeed, every transformative movement has been ushered in, every paradigm shift has been led by foot soldiers just like you. If you think of the 1964 Voting Rights Act and the 1965 Civil Rights Act, Congress took the credit, but that happened because of the people, because of their organizing, because of their mobilizing. Look, today we are facing overlapping crises of public health, economic inequality, and the only thing that COVID-19 could not kill, systemic racism. These crises have been exacerbated by the occupant of the White House, and Republicans in Congress, with every opportunity, have turned their back on the American people and chosen instead to advance draconian, bigoted, racist policies. When it comes to their policies, the cruelty is the point, and when it comes to their culture, the corruption and the chaos is the point. Their cruelty and criminal negligence have cost hundreds of thousands of American lives that could have been saved. And now, as we look ahead to November, these same people are attacking the USPS and doing everything they can to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of Americans, particularly Black and Brown Americans. This is voter suppression, pure and simple, nothing but modern day jelly bean counting. The occupant of the White House knows that his failures, they're all on the ballot, and that the only way that he can seek to still hold on to his power is to cheat and to steal. This November, the stakes could not be any higher. It is incumbent on all of us to ensure that Democrats not only take back the House, but also regain control of the Senate and increase and strengthen our majority in the House. We have got to elect Democrats up and down the ballot who will legislate our values, and I'm gonna underscore legislate. Because as I was referencing the early iterations of the civil rights movement, which never ended, we are still in, the blueprint is to organize, it is to mobilize, and it is to legislate. The reason why I always say that policy is my love language is because the disproportionate hurt, harm, and hate that marginalized communities have experienced, it wasn't naturally occurring. It didn't just happen. It was legislated. It was codified through lawmaking. So if hate, hurt, and harm can be legislated, so must healing, equity, and justice. And with Vice President Biden and Senator Harris, we have the opportunity to show the strength of this movement, to elect leaders who are compassionate, invested in working in partnership, and committed to making real progress towards systemic change that our communities so desperately need. Now, recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the ratification of the 19th Amendment, right? The centennial of that, recognizing that it took 55 more years after that for Black women to earn the right to vote. And here today, we have a Black woman on the ticket as our vice presidential Democratic nominee. What progress that we have leaders at the top of the ticket who have lived their lives in proximity to hurt. If the people closest to the pain should be the closest to the power, driving and informing the policymaking, Black women certainly know something about that pain. And I'm excited to see what change will happen having someone who has those lived experiences. And might I also add, it honors the long tradition of Black women throughout this Democratic Party, but throughout every social movement in history. We have been the table shakers. We have been the truth tellers. We have been the preservers of democracy. That's why Senator Harris could make it so plain on that stage and say, I know a predator when I see one. truth-telling. And Black women have been the most reliably voting constituency for the Democratic Party. But we need your help to make the dream of our elders a reality. So listen, sign up, volunteer, donate, talk with your friends and neighbors, and most importantly, make a plan to ensure that your vote is counted. I'm so proud of this ticket, but that is just the beginning of our work. Remember, the election of Vice President Biden and Senator Harris as partners in this work with us, as people that we will partner with, who we will challenge, they are the door, not the destination. It is still on us to organize, to mobilize, and to legislate policies. We've never organized just for one election cycle. We organize to build community. We organize to build political power in deep partnership with community that will advance racial, economic, education, transit, housing, healthcare, and environmental justice for all communities. My heart swells. I mean, at the same time, it breaks that we have to keep coming together to protest, to demonstrate, to organize, to mobilize, just to affirm that our very humanity is seen. But my heart swells that we keep showing up for each other as activists and advocates and organizers and community builders, taking to the streets and the halls of power in the past several months, well, for years, to demand systemic change. So we find ourselves at this inflection point. It's not often that when history is being written, you're aware of it. But we're on the precipice of a shift. There's a culture shift, but that shift now must be one that transitions into a power shift. We're in a moment of national reckoning, which demands a reconstruction that acknowledges that the normal that predated this acute crises, these three conflated crises, that normal was insufficient, unjust, and inadequate to begin with. This reconstruction, this community building, this work with a capital W that my mother used to refer to, it will require unprecedented organizing, unprecedented mobilizing, and unprecedented hope. Between now and November, each and every one of us must do everything we can, everything to engage folks in our community. And please, y'all, don't make assumptions about who desires and deserves a seat at the table of democracy. Engage and talk to everyone. Expand this electorate. I know some people are going to say, listen, why are you working so hard to motivate us? You're preaching to the choir. We know all of this. Well, y'all know why I preach to the choir? Because I need y'all to sing. I need you to go out there and make sure that people are clear about the stakes of this election, because our very lives and our democracy depend on it. So thank you all. Thank you for being movement builders. Thank you for being foot soldiers. Thank you for being a part of my chosen family in the work of equity and justice. I know our work is really just getting started. And so now I'll turn it back over to Leah and Ezra.
Thank you so much, Representative Pressley. We are so grateful to you for joining us tonight and for giving us this inspiration, and for keeping us focused on our bigger goal and our bigger vision, right? We want to win in November, not because we like winning, although we all really like winning, but because winning an election is part of how we build the power to ultimately make the systemic change that we need. And we are so proud to be part of that, or be in that fight with you. So thank you. And thanks also to everyone tuning in tonight. I hope you all had a chance to watch some of the convention this week. If folks want to share in the comments what their favorite speech or favorite moment from the convention was, we'd love to hear it. This was a crucial week for the Biden campaign, for the Democratic Party, and for Indivisibles across the country. The message for folks who are watching, it came through loud and clear. Through his incompetence, through his malevolence, through his bigotry, Trump has failed and endangered America, or the occupant of the White House, as Representative Pressley has termed him. It's time for leadership that's responsive, reflective, folks who will fight to protect and to improve our democracy. It is time for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to be our president and vice president. So we chose to do our second Windivisible week of action this week and weekend because this is the moment when a lot of voters really start to tune in. And we are dedicated to reaching out to as many of them as possible to make sure that that message from the convention is reinforced by real people via watch parties, via phone, via calls, via text, via letter, and more. And you all have been absolutely killing it. During our general election launch last month, Indivisibles hosted over 300 events across 37 states, reached out to nearly 750,000 voters. This week, as a movement, we have broken that record. We have hosted already nearly 350 events, made over 700,000 voter contact attempts in just 4 days so far. And we're gearing up for a weekend when we're going to keep talking to voters, and we're going to do our part to save the post office, a crucial institution for our country and for safe voting this year. It shouldn't be under attack, but we're going to show up because that is what we do. Now, this election is the culmination of almost 4 years of work for Indivisible, but we know it's not the end of the road. We elect politicians who represent us and who will champion our needs so that we can fix our democracy and deliver the policies and justice that we need. But in order to get there, we have to win. And from the deepening coronavirus crisis to Trump's efforts to steal the election right before our eyes, the stakes in this election are getting higher and higher every day. So I'm going to turn it over to Ezra to talk a little bit about what's happening with Trump and the Postal Service right now and what we're doing to fight back.
Hey, thanks, Leah. And oh my gosh, I mean, who else has chills after listening to Representative Pressley speak? I mean, you should have seen the chat over here behind the scenes. Everybody who's speaking to you right now is just falling over with how amazing Representative Pressley is. I'm sure you were too. Oh my gosh. So I get to talk about the BS attacks on the USPS, but just to say, following up on what Leah said, look, we are pumped. We are pumped to do work with a capital W, like Representative Pressley said. I want to win with a capital W too. And it's not just for everything that we've heard so far. It's because, look, we know that our democracy cannot survive another 4 years of Donald Trump, another 2 years Mitch McConnell. Hell, I don't think we can survive another 30 days beyond January 20th of this. We are heading in to build a Democratic trifecta, everybody. That's what we're doing. We're going to have the House. We're going to have the Senate. We're going to have the presidency. And now that we are in the home stretch, now that we're past the convention, we are headed to November 3rd. That is what we are all doing. So as you heard from Representative Pressley, you are part of this squad. You are part of this. You are listening to this right now. And one easy step you can take right now is click that little share button. That's a first step. But that's not the last step. We need you sending every text, making every call, writing every postcard. You've never done it before. That's fine. Now's your chance, because we've seen systematically Trump and his friends chipping away at our democracy piece by piece over the last 4 years. That's what we've seen. And these last couple of months, we've seen it just ramp up as it becomes clearer and clearer that the American public is against him. So we are in the midst of this global pandemic. It's taken the lives of almost 200,000 Americans. And the president is hard at work. Of course, not actually addressing that crisis, but exploiting that crisis to steal the election. He is launching these attacks on the United States Postal Service explicitly to steal this election. And we know in the midst of this pandemic, the only way that we are going to have a free and fair election is to get people to vote by mail. That's what we've got to do. Trump knows the exact reverse is true, that he will be able to beat us if he suppresses as many of those votes as possible. And that's what he's trying to do. Now, I think you all have seen this, but I need to recap it because this is just so freaking egregious. They have tripled the cost of postage for states to send ballots to voters, tripled the cost. They banned overtime for postal workers and told carriers to leave mail behind at distribution centers, which causes mail to just pile up day after day after day. They've actually reportedly removed sorting machines from post offices that actually help speed up mail processing. You've probably seen this in the news, these giant heaps of postal serving machinery sitting out in the rain because they are dismantling. It's incredible. So they are actively trying to slow mailing services to a crawl. But But this is not just about scaring you about what's coming. No, what we have seen over the last several days and weeks is that pressure works. If you were watching Meta recently, pressure works, and it comes from all sources. You might have seen that Representative Ayanna Pressley was one of those out in front saying over a week ago, hey, we need to get these folks in Congress to testify. And what happened this week? They came to Congress to testify a month early. So Senator Gary Peters from Michigan brought the Postmaster General DeJoy to testify today. Chairwoman Carolyn Maloney in the House is going to have hearings this Monday. So the recent reports from DeJoy, the Postmaster General, should really set up alarm bells. As you probably know, he was selected with no due process, with no background check, and with no requirement to divest from his investments in competitors to the USPS. You know what his experience is? You know what his qualification is? He's written big old checks to the Donald Trump election campaign. That's why he's qualified. That's why Trump chose him. And that's precisely why he, as Postmaster General, is seeking to undermine the USPS to deliver the election to Donald Trump. But because of public outcry from people like you on this call, from people around the country, DeJoy had to announce, he was backed into a corner. He had to announce that he was going to, quote unquote, delay some of the policies that he was planning to implement until after the election. But of course, we know that's not good enough. And beyond that, we know that we can't trust him to do that. We know he has an ulterior motive. So damage has been done, including removing these sorting machines, the blue boxes, other infrastructure. And DeJoy is still saying he has no intention to right the wrong. So look, pressure works. We've seen it so far. We've seen it over the last 3.5 years, but even in this specific instance, we've seen it. So we need to continue putting this pressure on, and we have the ability to do that. So here's what you can do right now, really right now. So just last week, the House Oversight Chairwoman, that's Maloney, who's holding the hearing on Monday, she introduced this new bill. It's called the Delivering for America Act. And that it's a simple bill, not very complicated. All it would do is prohibit the Postal Service from making any changes to its operations or the level of service it had as of January 1st of this year. Basically saying, look, they were delivering at a certain level at the beginning of this year. Don't make any shifts in order to undermine the election. Just keep it running as we need it to run so we can have safe and fair elections. But Congress, they don't do anything on their own. They need to be pushed. We've seen that repeatedly. Whether you've got a Democrat, an independent, or Republican, I don't care. You need to get on the phone. You need to call them. You need to make your voice heard. Even better yet, you can join in tomorrow, Saturday, August 22nd, for a national day of action. We're joining our friends at Move On and many other progressive organizations all over the country, pro-democracy organizations, pro-postal service organizations. This is everybody who thinks the mail is a good thing. They're taking part in this. Hashtag Save the Post Office, National Day of Action. So if you can, if you're able to, if you feel good about it, we need you to put on a mask, make some signs, and head over to your local post office. Make your voice heard directly. We need you out there. And you can click below to sign up for the Day of Action. You really aren't going to want to miss this. This is how we make change. We've seen this repeatedly over the course of the last 3.5 years. And that's not all, folks. We've got more. So you might remember over 3 months ago, the House of Representatives, through the House Democratic leadership, passed the HEROES Act. The HEROES Act was a COVID response package, which included full funding for the United States Postal Service. And you know what Mitch McConnell did then in the Senate? Nothing. He did nothing. He sat on his hands for month after month after month, while thousands, then hundreds of thousands of Americans got sick and thousands of Americans died. He did nothing. And he did this even though there was pressure from House Democrats, even though there was pressure from members of his own party. He did nothing. So what we need them to do is actually move, actually do something in the Senate. So this is a request specifically for your two senators. Again, whether a Democrat, whether an independent, whether a Republican, let them know that you want to see them actually pass the HEROES Act, which includes $3.6 billion to fund our protection for our elections and full funding for the USPS. Simple ask, support the HEROES Act. What are you doing to get a vote on the HEROES Act? Look, we have come so far We have come so far. We have been at this for more than 3.5 years. We are so close. And also there is so much more capital W work left to do. So we need to make the most out of these next 70 plus days. We have this week of action. And if this is any indication, you all are building the tsunami that we need for this world in November. So look, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for so much the work you've done, so much that you will do. This is how we're going to win, folks. And as we heard from Representative Pressley, winning is the beginning. After November 3rd, what we are building for is not just the celebration that week, but January 21st, when we've got a Democrat in the White House, we've got a Democratic Senate Majority Leader, we've got a Democratic Speaker of the House, and we're able to actually pass the policies that make our government respond to the people instead of people like Trump. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Megan to carry this on. Megan?
Thanks, Ezra. Thanks, Leah. And again, thank you so much to Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. It's always such a joy to hear her speak, and super, super inspiring words about how we can turn this democracy bus around. So I'm super excited. I am also super excited to introduce you to my colleague, Saskia Young of Chicago. As Representative Pressley called her Queen Young, I have to agree, she is a queen. She's going to join us to tell us a little bit more about how we can get involved over the next 74 days to get Trump out of office. That would be great. So Saskia, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Megan, and thank you, Ezra and Leah, and definitely thank you, Representative Pressley. That was absolutely amazing. We are all so excited to start this next phase of the election season, because this is when we do the most important work of the campaign season. This is when we do the work to win this election. You know, activism demands a lot of energy, physical, mental, and emotional. But it's also some of the most gratifying work that you can do. Thanks to my hardworking mom, I was always an activist from that time in 6th grade when I started a school-wide petition to get our French teacher, Mr. Schwartz, fired, and presented the petition proudly to the vice principal, to joining the 2012 team, where I fell in love with organizing and the awesome power that we have as a community to incite real change, to being welcomed here into the Indivisible family, where we all have the opportunity to build a movement that has the power to transform this country, and by transitive property, the world. Like Bernie said, this is one of the most, if not the most, important elections of our lifetimes. It is the most important election of our lifetimes. We have 74 days to do this work. There's no time to rest. We need to step up every single day, every single minute. Our democracy literally depends on all of us. It is all hands on deck time, and if we do the work, we will absolutely get there. So we're gonna win this in a few important ways. Join an event. You can join a virtual event by going to indivisible.org, or you can text and call on your phone, which is just as fun. You can go to 2020.indivisible.org to sign up and get started. There are a few dates that I would want you to save. From October 13th, which is when our GOTV, which means get out the vote, that's when those efforts start, and we'll be calling voters and making sure they get those ballots in and those get themselves to the polls on November 3rd. From September 20th to October 4th, we'll be having another week of action. So keep that in mind. That's around the first presidential debate. And from October 15th to October 18th, we'll be having another weekend of action, because this is important work. The work that we are doing right now, between now and Election Day, is important because it's strategic. As you know, voting will be a real challenge this cycle, so we will be reaching out to voters not usually contacted by campaigns to make sure they send in and confirm those ballots or show up at the polls on November 3rd. Phone banking and texting are proven effective methods. They're easy And no matter what kind of experience you have, you can absolutely do it. And you are more than welcomed to do it with us, because every single call and every single text counts. Like I said, we need all hands on deck, not just during those weeks of action that I mentioned, but every single day. I know we have this all in us. If 2016 taught us anything, it's that we cannot afford to take one vote for granted. Remember, in the state of Wisconsin, it came down to 2 votes per precinct. It's really time to suit up and step up. So to those of you who are already involved, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. For those of you who are going to be joining in this incredibly important fight, thank you so much in advance for all the work that you will be doing. I really look forward to seeing all of you out there in the field. So let's get out there and win this thing. And with that, I am going to pass it back to Megan. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks, Saskia. That was great. And again, 2020.indivisible.org. Make sure you check it out. We cannot be passive participants over the next 74 days. We really need to get active in making sure that, November has a good outcome. Thank you so much, Saskia. Actually, now we're going to take some questions. People have been putting questions in the chat box on Facebook and YouTube and on Twitter. And the first question is for Leah, is an easy one, I think, maybe, for Leah and Ezra. It's from Susan in New York, and she says her favorite speech was Michelle Obama's. I agree, very good speech. And she wants to know, what was your favorite speech during the DNC this week?
So I loved Michelle's speech, Michelle Obama's speech. I probably, if you had asked me, I would have said that one. But I thought her husband's speech, I think his name's Barack Obama, was also really good. I will say, I thought Joe Biden's speech was the best speech I've ever seen Joe Biden give. I thought it was the most forceful denunciation of not just Trump, but Trumpism. I thought it was a good explanation of what comes next, what we are building for. I think it did a good job of marginalizing the Trumpist forces as not representative of the country and not deserving of power. So I thought he did an extremely good job in that speech.
I'm just going to agree with everyone else and say I thought Michelle Obama's speech was one of the most powerful speeches I've heard in all of the time I've been in politics. I thought it was just so deeply delivered, so powerful, so clear-eyed about both what has gone wrong and also what we all need to do. And I was like holding my breath watching the whole time.
Thank you very much. This is a little bit more of a deeper policy question. It's from Mary in Texas. Why do we need both the Delivering for America Act and the HEROES Act?
Sure, I can take that one, Leah, although feel free to jump in. Mary, great question. I'm also from Texas. Great to get another question from a Texan. There are just so many shenanigans. You can't just pass one bill to fight all the shenanigans. And the sad fact of it is that 3+ months ago, when the HEROES Act passed, these attacks on the USPS had not come fully to fruition. We hadn't seen everything that had happened. So there was not yet the Delivering for America Act. So these two things these two bills do separate things. So, right, HEROES Act is about fully funding vote by mail, election protection, the United States Postal Service, all incredibly important things that we need. And the Delivering for America Act is all about don't screw with the USPS, or if you're from Texas, don't mess with the USPS. So they are both necessary. We are fighting for both of them. Your senators should be for both of them. To be clear, this doesn't have to be a Democratic issue. This doesn't have to be progressives versus everybody else. This is funding for the Postal Service. This is ensuring that the Postal Service delivers your medications, delivers your bills, delivers your mail, your ballots, yes, but everything else. So this is a wildly popular piece of legislation among independents, Republicans, and Democrats. It should be a no-brainer. So yes, we need both of them. It should not be a heavy lift. It is only a heavy lift because there are people in Congress like Mitch McConnell who recognize that this is a threat to their power.
Thank you. I agree. When I worked on the Hill, I had the Postal Service in my portfolio, and it just never came up. You know what I mean? It's very crazy to watch this now unfold, that all of a sudden the Postal Service, which delivers everywhere in the entire country, in every state, down every dirt road, is somehow getting attacked by a supposedly populist president who cares about rural Americans. So anyway, the final question is from Michael in Los Angeles. Do you think that the Delivering for America Act can pass the Senate?
Leah, you want to take a whack at it?
Go ahead and take that one. Sure. Look, we've seen a lot of signs over the last couple of years that Mitch McConnell is determined to stop literally anything good from passing the Senate, right? He has been very clear that he sees his role as preventing anything that we would like from happening. That said, the point of a bill like this is not just to move through the Senate. It is also to put pressure on Republicans to go on the record either doing the right thing or paying the political price for not doing so. So we think it absolutely has a chance to pass, but just as important is the process of pushing people on this bill, pushing people on this issue. This is as an overwhelmingly popular issue. Republicans who are trying to do something that is deeply unpopular, they're trying to wreck a vital public service in order to sabotage our democracy. They need to be actually confronted with that decision. They need to be on the record for that decision, and that is part of what the process is here.
Just to follow up on Leah, we want this bill to pass. It is an important bill to pass, but exactly what she said, this isn't just about Mitch McConnell. Where does Cory Gardner stand on the Postal Service? Where is David Perdue, Martha McSally, Tom Tillis? Where does Joni Ernst, Kelly Loeffler? There are senator after senator in Republican states who are up for re-election now and in the political fight of their life. And their constituents are now going to be asking them, do you stand with the Postal Service? And if they do, that is great. I would love to see them pass it. But if they don't, they need to pay a political price this November.
And I'll add one more thing. Look, part of the goal here is not just legislation. It's also just generating as much pressure as possible in order to drag something that was kind of a quiet, surreptitious effort to sabotage the Postal Service out into the sunlight and subject it to as much outrage as possible. And what we know is that sometimes Donald Trump actually backs off when that happens, right? If you think about a guy like DeJoy, he thought he was getting kind of a cushy, interesting job in the Trump administration. He didn't think that he was signing up to have people showing up at his house and hauling him in front of committees and threatening him with lawsuits and threatening him with prison time, because it turns out that sabotaging the mail is actually a crime. This is the kind of pressure that makes people, reevaluate exactly what they can get away with and back off. And so it's really important that we be showing up. It's really important that we be participating in this week of action this week. It's also really important that we be pushing legislative solutions. It's going to take an all of the above strategy to actually ensure that the Postal Service is working in November.
Couldn't agree more. And what a fun week to learn that the Postal Service has its own law enforcement officer. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, so again, Leah and Ezra, thank you so much for answering those questions. Thank you for your remarks tonight. Thank you again to Saskia for letting us know how we can get involved. In case you missed it, please go to 2020.indivisible.org to get more information about how you can get involved over the next 74 days. Time is ticking, folks. And thank you, of course, to Representative Ayanna Pressley for joining us tonight. Just what a legend. She just did such a great job and really kind of rallied us all to our purpose for the next 74 days. So thank you so much to the Congresswoman for taking the time to join us tonight. We have so much to be proud of from our work during this Windivisible week of action. We have already accomplished so much, but we still have a lot of work to do in the weeks ahead. And you can start at 2020.indivisible.org and sign up for a volunteer shift. And don't forget to sign up for the Save the Post Office Saturday, which Ezra talked about. It's happening tomorrow. Go make your voice heard. Let your letter carriers know how much you appreciate them. They are working like crazy. They want to deliver the mail, and they're doing an amazing job. So make sure you're thanking them while holding the bad guy in charge accountable. You can do it. Make your voice heard. Pressure works. We know it does. Make your voice heard. Save the post office. Save our democracy. It's as easy as that. So you heard it from Congresswoman Pressley. You heard it from Leah. You heard it from Ezra. You've heard it from me, of course. You've heard it from Saskia. The stakes are higher than ever. Nothing less than the fate of our democracy hangs in the balance. So let's go win this thing. So thank you so much. And we will see you at our next live stream.
This is a moment of real consequence for America. Everything we care about, our economy, our health, our children, the kind of country we live in, it's all on the line.
The question is, for all Americans to answer, who are we as a nation? What do we stand for? And most importantly, what do we want to be?
This election isn't just about defeating Donald Trump or Mike Pence. It's about building this country back better. And that's exactly what Joe and I will do.
One of the reasons I chose Kamala is because we both believe that we can define America simply in one word: possibilities.
Whenever I think that there is a reason for doubt, whenever I've had my own doubts, I think of you, the American people, the doctors and nurses and frontline workers who are risking your lives to save others, the women and students taking to the streets in unprecedented numbers, the dreamers and immigrants who know that families belong together, the LGBTQ Americans who know that love is love. So to everyone keeping up the fight, you are doing something. You are doing something great. You are the heroes of our time. And you are the reason I know we are going to bring our country closer to realizing its great promise.
For 4 years, you marched, you made calls, you helped save the Affordable Care Act and flip the House. Indivisibles have helped save us from the worst of the Trump presidency, and now it's time to kick him out. And that's why we're launching Windivisible. This is the most important election of our lifetime, and we need all hands on deck. For the next 100 days, we're counting on you to host virtual events, organize phone banking and text banking, and mobilize your community into action. This is not the world we expected for our general election campaign. The pandemic has forced us to adapt to this moment in ways that we never could have anticipated. But the stakes are too high to back down, and we're ready to meet this moment. We have the tools to succeed. We have the resources to succeed. And most importantly, we have you. And we know you're going to show up, do the work, and help us win in November. Visit 2020.indivisible.org to learn more.